Joe, we'll just start with Marika, wrist injury. What exactly happened there?
Yeah, he hurt it during the game. It swelled up on the flight across. It wasn't too bad post-game. Morning after, it was pretty uncomfortable and swelled up on the flight across. We have had it scanned, and there's no serious damage, but it's still quite inflamed, quite uncomfortable, and he's not ready to play.
Was he at all a chance to play? You said Max home because of the illness, but Marika stayed here. So was he still a chance to play?
Yeah. So he wasn't fully right to train and do any contact today. If he's not right today, it's a risk for the weekend. And Dylan Peach had done well coming off the bench. So yeah, we've got confidence in the squad, and we're trying to grow the squad and grow the depth. So it's an opportunity for somebody else to step up and give it their best shot.
Would you have, just staying on Corvetti, would you have dropped him if he was fit? I mean, there's a lot of commentary around how he's been subpar. His best is very good, he hasn't been quite at it.
Yeah, it's a moot question really, because we hadn't had to come to that decision because it was in a state of flux anyway with the wrist injury, and he was ruled out today, so it became a moot point.
Another change in halfback, come back to the way it used to be. I guess with Jake coming back in, what was the thought behind that?
Yeah, there's certainly no one dumped. We were really happy with Nick White. I explained last week, Nick White was a fresh legs. Jake had a very big tour of Argentina. We had a very long trip back, and Nick was fresh and ready to go. I don't know if you had too much of a look at some of the contacts he wore. He was pretty beaten up at the end of it, and Jake's fresh. So we've got confidence in all three of our halfbacks. So it's very much a best fit for any given occasion. But Nick did very well. Previous to that, Jake had done very well. He was particularly good in that game in La Plata, I thought, Jake. So that gives us a bit of confidence, and those two guys bring real experience. They've both been leaders in their Super Rugby environments. Jake's been captain of the Waratahs for 4 years. When we've got, to a degree, a lack of experience in front and behind the nine, it's good to have that experience from either of them.
And is that part of the reason, or what's the reason behind Tate being the serial bencher, I guess, reserve?
Yeah, Tate's had a start in this season, but he's also been really effective coming off the bench, and so that he's also been a leader of his Super Rugby side. He's captained the Wallabies before, so again, I'd just reiterate, we've got three really good nines, and I thought Tate's impact off the bench was really good, and sometimes that maybe doesn't play into your hand for starting when you've come off the bench and impacted the game really well like Tate did.
Just back on Marika, he's been a huge part of the Wallabies obviously for a long time now, one of their best and a bit of a spiritual leader. What sort of future do you think he still has in the Wallabies jumper, and is his testing numbers and stuff, is he still as fast and the athletic stuff still there at 32?
Yeah, probably. I'm not sure what his high speeds were before. He's still pretty quick. He still managed to open up defences a couple of times. One time in the very first game in Brisbane that he came back in, or in Perth when he came back in, he went straight up the left-hand edge very early in the game and showed speed. He went through the Argentinians, particularly in that second game, in the second half at one stage. So his ability to change angle, some of his handling, I think, was compromised a little bit with that wrist during the last game. So, I wouldn't put too much stock by that. And that's a discussion between, Marika, myself, and his Japanese club, which won't happen till after this block. We'll have a window to review it, and then a window to follow up the guys like Marika.
Were you a bit disappointed that he maybe didn't report that injury straight away? Or?
Well, it wasn't too bad. And in-game injuries, often with adrenaline, they don't feel too bad. And it was really not until the following morning it was a bit uncomfortable, and then after the flight it swelled up a bit, and it just niggled away. So I wasn't particularly disappointed. The players report in after the morning after the match anyway, and he reported it in then. So we did get it scanned just to rule out any fracture, and then we were just hopeful that it would settle, but unfortunately it hasn't settled. And the irony is it might settle by with another 48 hours, but we can't really afford to have that uncertainty, and we also have confidence in Dylan Peach being able to get an opportunity to have his first start for the Wallabies.
The All Blacks team, were you surprised at all that they've made a change of 10?
No, I mean, I know both those 10s very well. I've coached them both, and I think they bring really strong attributes to the All Black game. Obviously, Bowden's experience, as experienced as D-Mac is. Bowden has a depth of experience, probably hasn't played as much 10 over here in recent years, with a fair bit of 15 in the All Blacks, but I think he played pretty much the whole season at 10 in Japan, so it'll be something that is like riding a bike for Bodie. I'm pretty sure he'll slot straight back in there.
Joe, it's your first test back in New Zealand against the All Blacks. What's that been like, and what's the reception been like for you as well?
Yeah, to be honest, I hadn't even thought about that. Lots of people saying good luck, and they enjoyed last week's game. That's been the bulk of it. Even walking down the street the other day, a couple of different people just stopped me and wished the Wallabies luck, which is great. I mean, we flew back with the All Blacks, and the banter between the two teams is pretty positive. These guys know each other really well, from Super Rugby, from tests over the years, albeit some of ours are only dipping their toe in for the first time really at this level, which has been pretty daunting for them, to be honest, and was particularly daunting at 21-0 down last weekend. So I think if people enjoy the games, then I think both teams try to play positively. I think that's great for the game.
Take it another way, that's a bit of an indictment, isn't it? That New Zealanders are wishing the Wallabies good luck. I mean, it probably speaks to the sense that Australia aren't much threat to New Zealand.
Well, I just would like to think it's New Zealanders being polite. I'd like to think I'm a polite New Zealander, but not, and I'm wishing the Wallabies luck. Funnily enough, but probably with a little bit more, kind of gusto than the normal Kiwi who's just keen to see a really good game. And I think the two teams, as I said, that they'll both want to play positively, and that's good spectator value.
Every time the Wallabies come here, we talk about the records. How many times they've lost to Bledisloe, how many times they have failed to win in New Zealand, but the positive of that is just such opportunity, right? Like Australia have had a pretty poor rugby championship in terms of results, but they're 80 minutes away from creating a bit of history. Is that a motivating force, or you don't talk about it?
Yeah, it has not been mentioned at all. Obviously, the Bledisloe got talked about last week a little bit. James Slipper got talked about last week because of the admiration players have for him and the glue that he is in the group. But I think as far as we can manage, all we can do is try to go out and play as best we can, and the outcome will be whatever the outcome is. We've got to start better, obviously, than last week, and then be able to maintain a real focus, because it's a split second and New Zealand can get away from you so quickly. And if you look back at the tries they scored, some of them, particularly probably Artie's one as a standout, where We're looking to force a pass. Sivu picks it up. Artie's down the other end between the post and in the blink of an eye, really. So you don't give yourself a chance of defending those if you're untidy with the ball, and then at the same time they're the sort of team who can apply pressure through their set piece and then through their running game that they did in scoring their first try when Will Jordan went through and we didn't have our spacing right defensively.
Joe and Harry's going to wear the captain's armband again this week, 4th time this year. Do you feel like you found your long-term option?
Harry's been really good for us. He's played well. He's led well, not because he says a lot. There's a strong leadership group, and it means that Harry doesn't have to say too much. He doesn't necessarily make a lot of the decisions on the field. You know, he's got his head down, working hard. So there's guys inevitably in behind him that are making decisions on what's happening. He makes the big decisions from static play, but apart from that, he's just trying to decide how he's going to get to the ball next and how he's going to carry that one or tackle that one. And it's one of the things with Harry. His volume of work has been really positive.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of hits last week, one on David McKenzie and another one on Geordie, setting them into next week. But you must be really impressed with, I guess, just how he is throwing his body around. Even
Yeah, and it's a big body, you know. So what I have been impressed with is the big body getting back up off the ground and getting back into position and being loaded to go again, because that's what we need from Harry. We need the impact that he offers, but also the volume of work that he offers, and they've been two real positives for us. And on the back of a loose trio that are trying to work really hard together.
Dylan did well off the bench last week, but how close is Corey Toole to getting a run? He's probably the fastest man in Super Rugby, isn't he?
In Australia he is, certainly speed times. There's a couple of guys that are maybe just on the stats that I've seen that are a bit quicker, but he'd be right up there. Today the quickest guy at training was Darby Lancaster. He's another very quick young man, but he's very young in the game, and we're just trying to build the depth with those two guys. Really exciting, and Darby has had an opportunity. Corey was at the Olympics and did a super job there. I thought they were so close to getting a medal, and Corey's opportunity will come. I had a great meeting with Corey yesterday and talking through his game, and he's got a few priorities that he's working on, and so yeah, it's a matter of when, as long as he keeps tracking as he does, and he's quick. Yeah.
It was a nice
Last couple of things, Scott.
It was a nice photo after the game of you and Razor having a catch up and chat. How do you go with him just off the field, and also do you enjoy coming up against him as a coach? You see, I know once, but
Yeah. I think it's only been twice. Just in Super Rugby with when I filled in for the Blues for Tana for 6 months, and we managed a 1-1 there. I'd love to get a 1-1 here too. I probably don't know Razor that well because I've only been back in the country 3 years and didn't initially intend to be involved in any rugby really. So I've known him for a number of years just because there's only so many only so many coaches in the circuit, and so you get to know people. And obviously I know some of his staff really well. The likes of Jason Ryan, David Hill. We'll catch up for a coffee tomorrow, and Jason Holland played with Jace, played against Jace, and obviously he spent time in Munster when I was at Leinster. So there's all sorts of connections with the coaching staff and then with the playing staff as well.
And that helps you, does it? No doubt, with your planning.
No, they're just good people. They're just I'm not even talking about strategy. I'm just talking about enjoying people's company, really. And that's what the flight over from Sydney, it was great to see guys who try to tear each other limb from limb the day previous, chatting about all sorts of things, from kids to dogs to the weather, to the wind, and it was windy today.
Thank you.
Guys, we've probably got
Yeah.
time for one or two online if there's anything that needs to be asked.
Yeah, I'll go if I can. Joe, just quickly two in one question. Did you consider promoting Lucan after his effort in the second half? And second, on defence, sort of work have you done to improve that? Are you going to stick with that same structure after a couple of poor halves defensively in Santa Fe and Sydney?
Yeah, I think a couple of poor halves, but restricting a team like the All Blacks to no tries in the second half, I think that's the most recent half. So that's a positive, and we've got to just keep working away and hopefully build on that half rather than certainly the first 25 minutes were horrific as far as the number of times that we got opened up, and then behind that, how many times they actually then converted those and scored. And Lucan came off the bench and did really well. Probably it's a mix of line-out calling of the line-out options we have with the guys we've got, and I think Jeremy Williams made 17 out of 17 tackles. His volume of work has been really positive for us. So it's just getting the balance, and a little bit like Tate McDermott, who made such a positive impact off the bench. Lucan still gets an opportunity to do that, and by then, he may well come on, and the game may have loosened up a little bit, and he can get his running game going.